I am Vinnie Tortorich, folks. Your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed, just like the doctor on the other mic today. Folks, if you want to go watch this over on the YouTubes, you will see that, wow, Dr. Jeffry Gerber, somebody's been hitting the gym because he's looking pretty buff. You guys might remember this guy was in my first movie, Fat, a documentary. There's a couple of shots of him, I think, in the second movie, Fat, a documentary too. He is the guy who started Low Carb Denver, and that thing is still alive and well. Let's bring him on, Dr. Jeffry Gerber. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, Vinny, it's great to see you and to be back on the podcast.
You too, brother. I feel like, and I don't say this about everyone, but I feel like if we lived near each other, we'd probably hang out.
Well, when we do get together, we do spend a lot of time hanging out, and it is fun. You're a blast.
Yeah, and you are too. I'll never forget the first time we met. Ivor Cummins brought you over to my house. I think that's the way it worked out. You guys just, he goes, hey, did I go out to Malibu? How did that work? Somehow we met. Ivor says, Jeff, you got to meet Vinny. You guys need to meet. And there we were.
Right. And I said, "Who is this Vinny guy? He looks like a crazy man." And yeah, I think it was you had lived outside of Malibu, and we went and did some videos on the spot, and we went up to this big overlook
Yeah.
on top of Malibu Beach, and we did a couple of great segments. It was fun to talk to you and realize that you come from the world of exercise, nutrition, and fitness, and I come from the world of medical and health. And Ivor comes from the world of engineering, and we all had this singular passion in fitness, nutrition, and science.
We can say a lot of bad things about the internet and what happens on the internet and all this stuff that goes on. But the internet also brought together a doctor, an idiot, and a scientist. And look, it's not just in our case, it happens all the time. We see people getting together. I could bring up other names like Dave Feldman, right? Who's done some pretty incredible research. Sami Inkinen, who got together with, those guys over there, Stephen Finney and Jeff Volek, and now they have that thing going on, that Verta Health. There's so much good that's come out of, regular folk getting together with MDs and scientists and making something happen that I don't think could have happened otherwise. What say you?
Yeah, absolutely, Vinny. And we go back some time. And for me, my interest in nutrition started some, 20 plus years ago. And there wasn't much going on in the internet and social media. But as you know, over the years, it has brought us together. And Ivor, I didn't know who Ivor was, and he had put out a talk on YouTube, and I instantly connected with him, and basically it's just grown and bubbled up from nothing to what it is today. And what makes it interesting is that we're all independent thinkers looking outside the box and not willing to accept the status quo. Uh, I myself just want to interject that I'm still trying to bridge this gap between looking at being an independent thinker and working within the system to bring about change. Now there's others perhaps like you and Ivor and maybe Sami Inkinen where they say, well, we've had it with the establishment. And I think we need people like that as well. And so we all come together and we're trying to bring about change.
Yeah, and I guess you could call us disruptors to some degree. I try to disrupt in a suitable way when I have to. I do it with the documentaries. If there's a message that can be had or a message that's very strong. Yeah, just like the third one. I don't know if you saw my third documentary, but it's called Beyond Impossible. And you see Beyond Meat coming around, and you see, Impossible Burgers and all this kind of stuff. And you look at that and you go, okay, well, let me just go take a sniff around there and see what's doing. Right. I didn't go out to try to ruin these companies. All I cared about was, let me go sniff around and see what's doing here. Are these things healthy? Is this good for the planet? I just looked at their claims. Good for you, good for the planet. Okay. I started with the planet. I didn't even start with the human. I said, let me just look at this side for a bit. And my initial views were, just Googling, right? Just looking at, just like Googling one night, probably over a scotch. And that's when I do my best work. And I'm looking around going, well, at the very core, this stuff is being, some of these, pieces and parts come from China, and they have to get these pieces and part put together. So there's some O2 going into the atmosphere in China, and then they have to somehow convey it to the United States. So there's some diesel fuel to get it here, either by boat or by plane. So now we have more O2 going off into the atmosphere. And then the process of making it, once it gets here, more O2 in the atmosphere, and then shipping it to the market. Well, that's neither here nor there, because you got to ship everything to the market. And I went, wow, that doesn't make sense. So then you do deeper dives. And when you look around, you go, okay, so they're saying this is better than cow burps. I'm having trouble here. And then you call people like Frank Mitloehner, who, I don't know if do you know who Frank Mitloehner is?
No.
He's at UC Davis, and he's one of the foremost authorities on the planet when it comes to, cow methane and how it affects the atmosphere, right? And I called a couple of agronomists, people who work in that field. Peter Ballerstadt, for one. I just talked to a bunch of people, and I couldn't get the numbers to even come close, talking to the best experts in the world. So now I'm not listening to Greta Thunberg, or I'm not listening to whoever's at this conference or that conference that's pushing an agenda. I'm talking to experts who are looking at numbers going, yeah, it doesn't jive. Right?
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, well, it turns out it's not good for the environment. But okay, maybe we could get a win over here if it's good for human consumption.
Yeah. Well,
when I finished doing my research, I said to my buddy Dr. Drew, I said, I'm pretty sure an Oreo is actually healthier. Not exactly sure, but it's on par with an Oreo.
Well, when you're a troublemaker and you back it by science, people have to listen. And look, I haven't seen your third documentary, and I was in the first two, and I'm sure that your recent one, Beyond Impossible, was just as engaging as the first two. And to your credit, your style is just, it grabs your attention. It doesn't let go until the end of the documentary, and you have no other choice but to watch and listen. And look, I'm not an environmentalist, Vinnie, but I'm interested in it. My daughter actually has her degree in the environment, and we're often talking about, what are the factors in terms of eating food that affect it. And there's so many ways to look at it and spin it. And of course, the vegetarians have been all over it for years. And, there's three aspects in terms of looking at this. And so, there's the environment, there's the ethical treatment of animals, and then there's health. And I think the problem is that often we put too much weight on the environment and the ethical treatment of animals, that we make our health kind of like the third thing of importance. And I think, they're all important. We all care about the environment. We care about ethical treatment of animals. and we care about our health. And so we have to consider all these factors. And I'm sure you did in the documentary.
Well, I did. As a matter of fact, I think you would love this documentary. As a matter of fact, it's going to eventually beat Fat documentary in dollars. It's gotten that kind of legs. You'll see in the documentary, I wasn't trying to do a one-side documentary. I invited Walter Willett to be on. That's why people like you didn't get an ask, because I had asked all these vegan doctors. I asked, you name it, McDougall, all the top vegan, Greger. I asked every one of them to be in the movie. And I showed on screen the letter. They got the same letter that Nina Teichel's got. And, they got the same letter that Frank Mitlerner and Frederick Lacroix got. The difference is that they all had really bad excuses as to why they couldn't be on, right? And I showed us that, look, if anyone thinks I'm trying to be one-sided here are the letters that went to the head of all the top vegan guys. Here is what they sent back to me. Now, I couldn't put exactly what McDougall sent back to me because he treated my assistant as if she was a third-rate citizen who just obliterated his family, which I thought was harsh shit, to put it bluntly. But I was trying to get vegans here, not to goof on them, but to hear their side of the story. I like to bring everyone to the table. They were invited to the table. No one showed up to eat, right? So I never know what to do with that. The other side is when I tell people, well, you're worried about the environment. Yes. Okay, we can prove that cow burps and ruminants in general is actually, they're good for the environment, not bad for the environment. And they'll go, yeah, but they're bad for the environment. It's like, no, I'm going to show you that they're good for the environment. No, they're actually bad for the environment. But they're not. Oh, no, they're bad. And by the way, you guys treat them bad. I agree. There are some factory farms we need to do better. Let's come together and do better. We could do better if you stop eating them. Okay, well, that can't happen because our brains were formed by eating animal product, right? But if you stop eating them, the problem goes away. How? How does the problem go away? It makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, we've looked at the numbers as well, and so most of the problem with polluting the air and the environment, it comes, I think, more from fossil fuel, and the consumption of food is a rather small part of that equation. So you have to take it all in context.
You do. And it seems like everyone has an agenda and everyone's trying to push their agenda, and it's just not working out the way we want to. Before we went on, we turned these mics on live. Folks, I should have had these mics running when Dr. Gerber and I were just hanging out because you brought up the fact that you love when I goof on the pharmaceuticals. And I don't goof on them to make them look stupid or it's to make a point. And the point I'm trying to make, and Jeff, I want you to weigh in on this as heavily or as lightly as you want. I hope you go heavy. When I was a kid, I'm older than you, but you're old enough to know this. You're old enough to remember this. There were no ads for pharmaceuticals on television, but there were cigarette ads, and there were liquor ads where you can actually see someone drinking a drink. Now, if you see a beer ad, I don't know if you know this, but you never see anyone drinking the beer in the ad. You'll see them pouring the beer. You'll see it rushing over some rock in the Rocky Mountains. You'll see all kinds of stuff, but you won't see anyone putting it to their lips. They even had bestiality at some point. Everybody wanted to have sex with Spuds McKenzie. Hey, Spuds, we'll be back later to pick you up. It's like, ooh, that's kind of weird. But you can't put the beer to your lips. It's now you can't show someone, you can't even have a cigarette ad on television. That's good. I agree. But we have drug ads, and the drug ads have all kinds of minutia involved. Usually most of them have a side effect of something called death, or heart attacks or strokes or whatever. But the part that gets me is in every one of these ads, and Jeffrey, tell me if I'm wrong, they'll say, tell your doctor to give you this drug. They don't say it exactly like that. They say, maybe you should discuss this drug with your doctor. They're saying, hey, go to your doctor and tell him you want this drug. What say you?
Oh gosh, Vinny, I'm like laughing. You're so entertaining. Thanks for being you. So this takes me back to the Mad Men series when, they kind of invented advertising back in the 50s and 60s. And you're correct. And there was no pharmaceutical advertising back then. And look, my wife and I have made fun and, like everyone else, we just laugh at all the pharmaceutical advertising these days. Yeah. And they say, oh, by the way, you'll get a heart attack, stroke, and die, but don't forget you get flatulence and you can't think straight. So it's like, why do I want to take these drugs? And you really nailed it that they say, please contact your physician for advice, as if we're the vehicles to the pharmaceutical industry. And I see some other advertisements that aren't necessarily related to pharma, but for supplements. It's the number one prescribed supplement by your pharmacist, or they'll say it's the number one prescribed medication by your physician. And I'm like, what? Nobody asked me. And I honestly don't know where that came from. Are they saying that the physician is endorsing these pharmaceutical drugs?
Well, when you look at it, you see it's a sleight of hand. In order to get a prescription, you need to go to an MD or a DO, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now you have that. So who are the number one people that can prescribe anything? It happens to be who?
Doctors.
So it's a
what did you say?
I said it's doctors. You're correct.
Yeah.
So if you're the only place where it can be prescribed, then they can do the sleight of hand and go, the number one prescribed medication by doctors. Guess what? They're the only ones that can prescribe it. I guess nurse practitioners have some ability to prescribe something. They could do that, right? Nurse practitioners or doctor PAs can prescribe or something.
Yeah. Well, apparently our MC at our event next year, Corey Jenks, is a pharmacist, and he actually has prescriptive authority. So some pharmacists can prescribe.
Well, my favorite thing was and by the way, I don't do pandemic talk on this show because it somehow becomes political, and I try to keep political out of my show because everyone else does politics. I don't. But one of my favorite things was I had a friend that got COVID before the vaccine came out. And he went to his doctor, said, his doctor happened to also be his friend. He goes, hey, I'm going to get you some hydroxychloroquine and some blah, 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 blah. It may help, right? The doctor called it in, and the pharmacist called the doctor back and said, why are you prescribing this? Why are you prescribing this? When in history has a pharmacist questioned the doctor about what they're prescribing? Has this always been done, or is this something brand new?
We do get calls back from the pharmacists where they do get to question things. Normally it's about cost and whether the insurance company is going to cover it. But, obviously that comment was, well, the FDA hasn't approved certain medications, but it's not to say that the pharmacist is dictating what we do as physicians. But look, the entire healthcare system has its problems, and my goal is to try to navigate through it and to help our patients at the end of the day.
Yeah, but don't you feel like you're being hogtied? I'm not trying to back you into a corner, but do you feel like sometimes, you can't be a doctor anymore? They're not allowing you guys to do what you do.
Yeah. Well, look, like yourself, I try to stay away from the political aspects of COVID and kind of stick to the point. But look, I love to talk about healthcare in general, Vinnie, and yes, that's why a lot of healthcare professionals have thrown in the towel and decided I'm leaving the system. I'm going to do concierge medicine, or I'm going to do other things to help a larger population. And yes, we are indeed hogtied, but we're trying to find ways to work within the system. And so one of the things we did is finally, after all these years, we've brought in an electronic health record. So you can see I have paper charts behind me. They're kind of archival. They're just kind of sitting there. But part of that is that the healthcare systems want to have access to our records to make sure that we're doing this, that, and the other thing. And so we're trying to work through that. For instance, there's some good things in healthcare. So they want us to improve patients' diabetes. They want to see the hemoglobin A1C number improve. And by any means possible, it can be medication, it can be weight loss. And if we show that there's an improvement in hemoglobin A1C, we actually get perks and incentives and kickbacks. Here's another aspect. Well, they want everybody who has high cholesterol to be on a statin, right? That's just a classic. Well, we have patients that don't tolerate statins, and we have to document that they don't tolerate statins, so that we don't get dinged because we don't prescribe statins like they would want us to. But slowly but surely, we're trying to work within these systems to explain that it's not about just pumping patients full of medication, that it's about deprescribing and working on nutrition and health. So we're not at a point where we're ready to throw in the towel.
If you don't want to answer this, if this is uncomfortable, don't. How will you get dinged by not giving someone a statin? You said we get dinged if we don't give them a statin. So you see, you're not getting. I was under the impression that medicine was a practice. You were basically practicing on people. You got a degree, and now you're out there doing the best you can to. You take an oath. First, do no harm, and then after that, let me see if I can do something, right? And now there's this. Take a statin. Someone is telling you to give everyone a statin if it's over a certain number, right? There's just this erroneous number that was brewed up, and if you're above this number, put that person on a statin, right? If you don't give them a statin, you have to have a reason why. That doesn't sound like doctors get to practice medicine anymore. It sounds like someone is, we have a puppeteer and a marionette and the whole thing. What's going on there?
Yeah. Well, look, I'm happy to answer any questions, Vinnie. And it's very cut and dry. The patient has heart disease, the patient has diabetes, the patient's LDL level is this particular level. They need to be on a statin. And Dr. Gerber, why isn't your patient on a statin? And so, look, the initiative is good from their perspective. So, for instance, with a Medicare population and with the commercial insurance, so we have Medicare and commercial insurance, they're called shared savings programs. And so I'm a membership in the group, and the idea is that the idea is prevention, or to show that there's an improvement. We're trying, we're not. It's we joke that it's a sick care system, and it is, but this is some attempt in terms of wellness and prevention. And so the share saving program, and it's kind of a boring topic, but you did ask the question. And the idea is that if they look at our patient database and they say, well, we have all the patients on statins that should be on statins, so we're going to give an incentive back to my office for being sure that the patient was on the statin medication.
Who's giving the incentives? Where's the money coming from?
Right. So I'm part of these organizations called ACOs, or accountable care organizations. and it's kind of an intermediary between us and the insurance company. So they partner with healthcare professionals. You would think so. There's some ACOs that are tied closer to the insurance, and they say we're still partnering with healthcare professionals, but but they want you to fulfill these criteria because the middleman, as it were, they get incentives, we get incentives, and the insurance company, their incentive is that it's the idea that if we do all these measures, that the patients are going to be healthier and they won't be hospitalized and they won't be sick. So ultimately, it is trying to save healthcare dollars. It is trying to address prevention with patients. And so,
but we started this piece of the conversation. We were joking about it, that there are more side effects to a statin than there could be health benefits. So if the insurance companies are truly worried about saving money on not having people end up with any medical problems, we're creating more problems with the statin than we're fixing? Or am I just an idiot? And what am I missing?
Well, look, they don't see it that way. So, their point is that, statins provide, a significant benefit. And you're bringing up the point that is quite valid, that we actually disagree that statins really don't provide the benefit that the mainstream tells us that it has. And there's concerns, long-term concerns about, provoking diabetes, side effects, myopathy, dementia. There's all kinds of potential side effects that need to be considered. And so they don't see that. So, the guidelines say that if the patient is in this condition, they need to be on a statin. And so what we tell them is, say, look, our patients are intolerant to statins, and this is kind of how we work through it. And you say, you can't ding us because, we have a patient that can't tolerate statins for this, that, or the other reason. And so, I don't know how that works out, but they just can't use that against us. And we're working in the system. So we have patients that, we don't think will benefit from statins, and we're still in the healthcare system. We're working through it. And, certainly we think we're providing the best care that we can because, we're very good at prescribing medicine. I was taught how to do that a long time ago, but I'm also now very good at de-prescribing medicine and addressing nutrition and lifestyle.
But the fact that you have to play a game drives me nuts. I keep hearing on one side incentive, on the other side we get dinged. And, when I ask the question, well, who's coming up? Well, the medical establishment decided that statins are good, so the insurance companies are following them. And the medical establishment, should I assume that the drug establishment is somehow tied to this magical establishment that thinks statins are good? Are they getting, because it seems like the tail is wagging the dog. It reminds me of before the mafioso got into drugs, back when it was more prohibition. One of the things the mafioso did is they did a little something called racketeering. And for the audience, I know Jeff knows what racketeering is, but I'm going to give you a simple form of racketeering. And this is how the Italians did it back in the day. They would go to a business, single proprietor business, and they would go, you need to pay us X amount of money per week for protection. And the proprietor of the business would say, protection from who? No one's after me. It's like, protection from us. See, if you don't give us money, we're going to come and burn your place down. We're going to, kidnap your kid. We're going to do whatever we need to do. We're going to disrupt your business. So you need to pay us blood money to protect you from me. That's called racketeering. Doesn't this, Jeff, sound a lot like that? Or am I just hearing this wrong? What am I missing?
Okay, Vinny, see, there must be some Italian blood in you, if I recall.
A lot.
So,
it's 100%. But
yeah, the guy that drinks cups of olive oil on a daily basis. Yeah. So I think I just heard you trying to compare the pharmaceutical industry to the mafia. Am I correct?
Yeah. I
did.
I heard that too. I just did.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, the dog is wagging the tail. That's for sure. And, you know, again, you nailed it right on the head. And it really starts in medical school. You know, and I've come to learn that the pharmaceutical industry has its fingers on every aspect, and um, really in medical school and throughout the whole career is that, you know, the commercials, as much as we mock them, really set the stage that we are in a sense a vehicle of the pharma industry, and the guidelines
Right.
and how we act as physicians is really driven by pharma. But you know, that's how the cookie crumbles. I mean, that's how it works. We get it, we understand it. And yet I still love coming to work every day and working with patients. I'm just as frustrated as you are, but I want to find a way to work through it and help to educate. You know,
But
my
it's sad
legacy.
that
Go ahead.
you have to scribble in your notes. Oh, this person is, a little allergic to this drug. I can't get, or you'll get dinged or incentivized. And it's not just you; it's all of you. Look, I get every time I talk to doctors now, they're going into concierge medicine because they don't want to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
They're tired of lying.
Well, I feel like, well, I'm not lying. I wouldn't ever say
I'm
that.
not accusing
Yeah.
you or anyone else of
Yeah.
lying. I'm just
And
saying that you got to say certain things. You're playing within a system. They're making it impossible for you, is the point I'm trying to get to.
right. So look, even before I knew a thing about nutrition, you know, I come from a family of doctors. My brother is an internal medicine doctor in Jersey. Um, and we've been jumping through hoops our whole career. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really sad. I tell this story, I'll tell it to you. People have heard it on the show before, but we moved to Virginia about 2 years ago, right before the pandemic. And my wife tells me, Serena, you met her, and she says to me, you need to go get a primary care doctor. And I said, well, why? And she goes, because I said, well, Serena, I've never had a doctor. And she goes, you didn't need a doctor. You were adjacent to famous people. When you got sick, you would call the famous person and they would get you into their doctor. And I went, oh, yeah, that's right. I don't know anyone here. I didn't realize you had to have a primary to get you to other doctors. I didn't know how that worked. I never had
Yeah.
to deal with it. So this woman comes highly, you got to go see this woman. So I go. And she's got all my records, just like you have in the back there, right? All my records were sent to her and the whole thing. And she checks me out one day. She spends about 15 minutes. She goes, okay, we're going to take a bunch of blood from you. We're going to test some of this blood, and I'll call you with the results in a few days. Great, doc. Sounds great. Seems like a really nice woman. And a few days later, she calls me and she goes, we got all your tests back. And wow, for a 57, I was 57 at the time. 57-year-old man, you are an amazing. I mean, your blood were, I mean, your triglycerides were, less than 50. We never see that. And everything about your blood was just perfect. She goes, well, no problem we need to discuss. Your cholesterol was a bit high, and we need to put you on I'm quoting, a light statin. And I went, oh, really? Light statin? And she goes, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, doc, when you do cholesterol tests, aren't you supposed to be fasted? And she goes, well, absolutely. I said, okay, well, no one told me to fast. I didn't study for that test. So no one told me to fast. So I didn't do that. And I said, so what were my numbers? And she goes, well, you had a good ratio. Your LDLs and your HDLs were pretty close. She goes, LDLs are bad cholesterol. And she starts explaining this whole hoopla of bad cholesterol to me. And I'm basically laughing on the other end of the line. And I said, bad cholesterol. I said, you mean I had a lot of small, dense particles? Did you do a particle test? Did you take my APO? I mean, where are we here, doc? And she goes, well, no, I don't do a particle test. I said, so no particle test. So you're saying all LDL is bad, even the big fluffy ones? And she goes, well, what do you know of it? And so I'm asking you about the particle test, something I read online. And she goes, we don't do that test. I said, why not? She goes, because we just don't do it. I said, okay, first and foremost, you said you have my records. She goes, they're right here. I said, what's my CAC score? She goes, give me a minute. She flips through. She goes, it's 0. I said, okay, so I have a CAC of 0. You gave me a test without having me study for it, so I didn't come in fasted. You didn't ask me if I'd come in fasted. You told me that you were going to put me on a drug based on a test that could have been wrong because I wasn't fasted. You have my CAC score that you didn't bother to check. And you said you don't check small, dense particles, which is basically the only part of cholesterol that's probably bad as far as we know so far today. And she goes, I don't like your tone. And I think you need to find another doctor. I said, oh, no, you were fired 15 minutes ago. I'm just having fun right now. Right? Go on, Jeff. But look, if it wasn't me who have guys like you on my show that have taught me all this stuff, I would be another guy on a statin with a cholesterol with the first number being in the ones. I was somewhere around 190. She was suggesting a light statin with no CAC, with a triglyceride of under 50. Does any of this make sense to you?
Vinnie, this reminds me of the Seinfeld episode where I think it was Kramer. His chart was flagged for being a trouble patient, and yeah, wasn't your chart already flagged?
It should have been, but that was the first time I had it out with a doctor because I never really had a doctor before that. And by the way, I went to this other doctor and she looked at it and she was like, she was perplexed. She goes, I know this other doctor. She's a great doctor. What was she doing? I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking you would have either had her in tears at the end of the visit or she kicked you out. So she kicked you out.
Yeah, it was over the phone because it was during COVID. So she was doing the secondary thing over the phone. I went in for the first thing, and then it was, we're going to call you and give you the results. I was driving when she called me, and she's recommending a drug with side effect. All drugs have side effects. We know that. And she had no reason to give me the drug.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me, Jeff.
So I have to tell you that it's such a typical story, and it is infuriating. And we just had a really near and dear friend of ours back in Philadelphia who had the same telemedicine experience with cholesterol. In fact, the rabbit hole went even deeper, that she had her blood work and she got a call back from the staff, didn't even talk to the doctor. And the staff person said, you need to be on a statin. And she called me up right away. And I said, she knows of our interests. And I said, oh my God, we have so much information out there. And so I said, go get a calcium score. And like yourself, her calcium score was 0. Now, I'll tell you, in the guidelines, the power of 0 is now included in the Heart Association guidelines. And when you have a 0 score, there's really no indication to take statins. So that's a decision point. So, obviously the doctor that you saw didn't understand calcium scores. And, we think that's a great screening tool. It's an important test. But beyond that, we know that on these types of diets, the LDL cholesterol go up. And, again, this is just, kind of like mainstream guideline that you have to take these types of medications. And it's infuriating. I agree. These are the gatekeepers. They really, what we want to do is help them to better understand what prevention is. And it's not, working for the pharma industry and prescribing medication.
Would you agree that if someone got that kind of diagnosis, and I know most people won't do this, I'll do it because I have time and energy, but do you think they should get a second and or a third opinion before they go on a drug?
So there's so much information thanks to social media, and sometimes the information is accurate, sometimes it's gray, sometimes it's inaccurate, but I think the message is out there now that there are some, questions about, statins and its role in heart disease. And, our perspective is that for primary prevention, in terms of individuals that haven't had a cardiac event, such as a heart attack, we really think that statins don't provide a significant benefit to reduce your chances of having heart attacks, strokes, and dying from heart attacks and strokes. Secondary prevention, there might be a little evidence, but we have in our community people that don't believe that statins provide any role in secondary prevention. And so, you just have to understand what's going on here. And I think that people should go out there and start researching on their own to see if the advice that they're getting from their healthcare professional is sound.
Yeah. And one of the things, I do these consults 5 days a week. One of the things, and I tell everyone, I'm not a doctor. I can't give you medical advice. I cannot tell you to go on and off a drug. I can't do any of that. But they're frustrated because they're part of an HMO at work, and this is the only thing they have, and they don't have enough money to go get a consult. I feel for these people. It's like they're caught. They're stuck with this one doctor, they feel like. And they don't know what to do and where to go and how to do it, and I think there's a lot of that out there. What say you?
Yeah. And so, in parts of the country, underserved parts of the country, people that, are of a socioeconomic class where they're dependent on particular health insurances, there are little choices. And so I would have to tell you, in our office, we see people from all different socioeconomic classes, and we treat them with respect. And there's different levels of what they do, different intelligence levels. They're all concerned about their health, but they all go out and they try to read. And one of the things is that we already said that your chart should have been flagged a long time ago, but doctors hate when people read on Dr. Google. Yeah. But I really embrace it, and I say that's great. You're trying to think independently, and you're being an advocate for your health. And I'm happy to talk to you about the information that you found out there on the internet, and let's see if it makes any sense or not.
Yeah, I want to move on. I got to do a quick break here. I want to move on to Low Carb Denver, and I also want to ask you about your workout routine, because you look a little different to me, Jeff. You look like you've been hitting the gym. Folks, CAPPELLI, Dr. Gerber mentioned this a little while ago. Yes, I do drink olive oil. When people say, look, I'm a guy that owns a vitamin company. When people go, which supplements do you take? Do you take any supplements outside of the ones you sell? And the answer is yes. I do take things outside of what I sell. One is I take Knox gelatin every day. You don't need some kind of fancy schmancy hydrolyzed peptide. You could just take Knox gelatin. It's something I do every day. I also, if I'm not getting olive oil poured on my food, I will drink a 1 ounce jigger of that stuff every single day. It's just good for you. And not all olive oil is created equally. We're talking about medications here and how they get patients to beg the doctors for the medications through commercials. We have another problem with olive oil in this country. If you read the book Extra Virginity, it's written right in that book. The research was done. You can cut olive oil up to 40% in this country, in the great United States, and still call it 100% pure olive oil. That's just not right. There's some good ones out there. And if you want to figure out what they are, you can go to the UC Davis olive oil study and figure it out. Or you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble, get the best tasting olive oil in the world. It comes from Puglia, the Terlizzi region of Italy. I've been there. It's great. It's wonderful. You feel, look, I'm an atheist. I get religious when I go there. It's like a religious experience. Olive oil is great for you. You want to get it from Puglia. You want to get CAPPELLI olive oil, longest running sponsor of the show. You want to save 10%? Put in promo code Vinnie, VINNIE. If you spend more than $125 after the discount, you'll also get free shipping. So it's two ways to save at Villa Capelli. I see Jeff jotting something down over there. I bet he's going to be getting Villa Capelli right after this show. Villa Capelli olive oil, promo code Vinnie, Vinnie, no wimpy Y. Save 10% every single time. We're talking to Dr. Jeffry Gerber. He was one of the stars in my first movie, Fat a Documentary, and there's snippets of him in the second movie, Fat a Documentary 2. Jeffrey, you put together something. I wanted to go to it a few years ago. I got busy. I couldn't make it. I have a golden ticket. It's coming out this year. Is it during ski season? Let me look. It's in 2023. When is it, Jeff?
End of February, right in the middle of ski season.
Ski season. Now, let's see. I might be able to work that. How far off the 70 are you?
We're right there.
You're on the 70.
We're about 2 hours from Copper Mountain, Vale, you name it.
Okay, because I'm supposed to go skiing with a buddy of mine in Park City, which is right down the 70. And I was planning on the way. I like A Basin. I like some of the ones on the way, right? I like Breckenridge. And I was thinking, oh, just throw the sticks in the car, go hit this mountain for a day, that mountain for a day. Just keep moving on until I get to Park City. Maybe I can make this work.
Oh, I love it. A little education, hop in the car, hit your favorite ski resorts, and you end up in Park City.
Yeah. And then get drunk, dry up, turn around, come back. And probably hit some on the way back. If I get, see, I used to be that guy, Jeff. If there was fresh snow, fresh pow on the way back, oh, Aspen got hit last night. Turn off in Glenwood Springs. I know every one of those slopes. I could tell you exactly how to get to them. I would just go up and down the 70 and hit whatever was fresh that day. I was that guy.
I'm jealous. Yeah. I wish I had the time for that.
I was young and dumb. I had a lot of, I had, I was like, I wanted to become a great skier, and that's how I did it.
My daughter and son-in-law, they live and work up in Steamboat. So they are living the dream. And she, I'll give them a call. How's it going? Well, it snowed 1.5 feet yesterday. Oh. And, the powder, it was a little heavy. It could have been better. And I'm like, I hate you.
Do you ever get out and hit the snow anymore?
Oh, yeah, certainly. And, after the conference, we try to head up. And so it's still a pleasure. And, as we get older, we do seek powder, but you have to be very privileged to hit powder days.
Yeah, I don't do anything crazy anymore. I haven't skied for 2 years because of COVID. We were stuck inside that first year. We didn't know what to do. We had just moved to Virginia last year. We were pulling this house together. And I told Serena my New Year's resolution, and it's going to happen as soon before the new year. I need to get out and get the sticks rolling again. I'm going to buy a new pair of skis just to catch up with the times. And I want to get back to something I used to truly enjoy. And that's my game this year.
Well, look, we can talk about that after the conference, but as we get older, maintaining skeletal muscle health is just so important. And whatever the activity is, we all need to keep doing it and using it.
So, Jeff, let me start with that skeletal muscle. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm going to be 62 on Sunday.
You're older than me? I just turned 60.
Well, I hope you respect me for my seniority, sir.
I do. I respected you before. I knew you were older than me, but okay. If someone told me to guess, I would have said you were 50 years old. You don't look like anyone near my age. If someone put us side by side, you would say, that's that guy's father. I look like your father.
You look great, Vinnie, but thank you. I guess I have that young gene, and I try. The body certainly hurts. I certainly have my fair share of orthopedic injuries, but I have a calcium score of 0 like you, and I'm trying to live the dream.
So 62 on Sunday. And first off, happy birthday. This is coming out about a week or so after your birthday. 62 years old, man. That's hard to fathom that. I thought you were much younger than me. You're in good shape. And I tell this to everyone all the time. Doctors, Am I right? They'll tell you, oh, by the time you hit 35, sarcopenia starts in a very slow way. By the time you hit 40, it picks up. And before long, you're losing a pound of muscle per year for the rest of your life, and there's nothing you can do about it. What say you?
Yeah. So, as a doctor, it's frustrating. You go in and see the doctor, and in the old days, the doctor would come into the office with his dog, cup of coffee and a cigarette, and he was probably 50, 60 pounds overweight. And, you don't set a good example that way. How can you take a health advice from someone who's not taking care of their own health? And so we try to set a good example. And, we've always looked at fitness and health over our lifetime. They joke, don't ever take advice from somebody that's healthy and fit, because they've never struggled or suffered. But, I've been pre-diabetic. I've been 40 to 50 pounds heavier. So, I've learned from my mistakes. And, as I get older, yes, sarcopenia just, it's not a given. It's not just going to happen. You have to stay active and move. And, as I mentioned to you before the podcast, the last 2 years, when the gyms opened up, I went back to the gym. And I actually started experimenting with workout supplements. And we're not talking about testosterone, taking things like creatine and nitric oxide precursors. And they really, in addition to, eating a healthy diet, the muscle mass came right back. And it's just a joy and pleasure to exercise. It's only 2 or 3 days a week. I add in some cardio, and it's great to see my friends. It clears my head. And we encourage everyone to stay active now, and whether you're retired.
Creatine, one of the most studied supplements on the market. People ask me about it all the time. My opinion is it works. Is benign, has been studied, is shown to put strength on people in small ways, nowhere near what steroids would do. We get it. Our bodies make it, folks. We get a lot of it from red meat. And when people ask me, I'll say, yeah, if you want to supplement with small amounts of it, you will see some results. What say you, Jeff? You're obviously taking it. You're feeling results.
Yeah. So look, I've researched the literature just like you have, Vinnie, and creatine, has been studied in actually nursing home patients.
Yeah.
And they, it in each and every study, it shows increased performance in muscle strength. So nitric oxide precursor, oh, and you're right, by the way, it comes from meat. Nitric oxide precursors such as L-arginine and L-citrulline, you get sources from animal and plant. And it works on a mechanism that dilates blood vessels, increases blood flow to muscle, lowers blood pressure, may help long-term with memory, and as another perk, helps with erectile dysfunction. And all these drugs have been studied. I'm sorry, all these pathway mechanisms have been studied. But I was going to say, with the nitric oxide pathway, we actually have pharmaceutical medications that work on the same pathway. So again, I've looked at these supplements, and finally I went ahead and started taking them. And I found that, I was able to build muscle. I'm not trying to set records. I bench 185. Maybe I'll get back to 225 where I used to be. And the other thing is just recovery is unbelievable. I walk out of the gym and I'm ready to go back. So yeah. I'm just happy to be there. And I found some tools in addition to diet that really helps.
I want the audience to know exactly what Dr. Gerber is talking about. A precursor means we can't take nitrous oxide as a supplement. There is no nitric oxide supplement. Our bodies make it, and it makes it from using citrulline, which is an amino acid, and L-arginine. Citrulline that's L-citrulline, right? It's also L-citrulline.
Yeah, L-citrulline, yeah. L-arginine.
L-arginine. So if you're going to take those things, folks, that is not, you're not taking nitric oxide, you're taking something that causes your body to make it. Another thing that makes it, believe it or not, is not brushing your teeth before you work out. People don't know that you build up the bacteria in your mouth, and that can actually cause more nitric oxide to exist in your body.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it happens during the night while we're sleeping when we're getting bad breath. And it absorbs in our bloodstream. It's one of the ways we get it.
That's interesting. I like to work out early in the morning, and I do better. Maybe it's due to my the bacteria in my mouth.
Well, it's that, and it's the fact that we're coming off the highest form, especially for us, because I don't take any. People ask me all the time, it's like, do you take any growth hormone? It's like, no, but thank you for thinking that. But it's higher in the morning, right? Our hormone levels are higher in the morning than any other time of the day. So if you're going to work out, you might as well do it in the morning.
Yes, unfortunately, some people, work 8-10 hour days, and
Yeah.
and they're left with working out at nighttime. So you have to do what you can, but again, it doesn't have to be every day, 2 to 3 days a week. And I always like to throw in this idea of mindfulness, that you do things because you enjoy and love to do them. You're happy to be alive. You eat when you're hungry. You don't eat when you're not hungry, and that's what's important.
Yeah. Jeffrey, can people, Trochalazian and a bunch of these doctors, Avadia, they will do online consultations with people. Do you do anything like that? Or are you willing to do that kind of protocol?
Yeah. So we do online consults, and you can find more information about it at denversdietdoctor.com. But that's not really the crux of what we do. Tro, for instance, and it's wonderful what he's done. He's really set up his his care for
Right.
patients in 50 states. It's amazing. He got licensed in 50 states, and he does he does online consults. So we're not licensed in 50 states. We're just licensed in the state of Colorado. So we give general nutrition advice. If you go on your website, you see that we offer that, but I don't really promote and advertise. I really enjoy seeing people face to face in person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that we can do things virtually, and I get to hang out with you like we are today. But again, I like to see the body language, and I like to just be right next to the individual and get to know them in person.
No, I get that, but people are always asking me, I'm not getting. I need to talk to someone, and I'm always looking for doctors to send them to. Um,
Yeah.
and
So
so in Colorado, I can send them to you.
for patient care, for an e-consult, what we call them, where we're not establishing a doctor-patient relationship, but we get a lot of patients that find us, and their concerns about heart health, cholesterol, calcium
Yeah.
scores, and so we did, I think, two e-consults this week. So
Wow.
they happen. It's fun. So please send us people if you think of us.
One more question. I'm going to try to make this. You just sent me this golden ticket today. I'm going to try to make it work in my schedule to come by and say hi to you guys. Folks, I'm not going to be on stage talking, but I'll hang out and chat with you guys and go have a coffee or whatever. Um, who's going to be there? Do we know who's going to be there this year? Have you put together any of your list?
Yes, our whole schedule, if you go to lowcarbconferences.com and look up the schedule, we have all the speakers. We actually have the schedule up. And this is our 6th year, and we've taken a 3-year hiatus, as you know, because of everything that's been going on in the world.
Yeah.
And we want to bring back in-person events and make it fun again, and just encourage your audience to join us. We're a group of healthcare professionals and the general public that are just passionate about fitness, nutrition, and health. And we've included a lot of speakers and a lot of content that isn't specifically low carb or keto. Um, we have fitness built into the conference. We have people like Thomas DeLauer, Lane Norton, who is really kind of he admittedly is a troublemaker on social media, but we wanted him there to share perspective. We have Gabrielle Lyon, who's into muscle-centric health. Jamie Seaman, I kind of call her an Amazon woman. She's unbelievable in terms of her passion and her devotion to health, fitness, and helping others. So those people will really be adding a bit about the importance of maintaining skeletal muscle health. And then, we'll be discussing heart disease, insulin resistance, diabetes, weight loss. The theme of the conference, where is nutrition headed? Actually, Andreas Einfeld from Diet Doctor inspired us because there's some different viewpoints about long-term. What should we be doing with fat intake, carbohydrate intake, protein intake? So there's 28 talks. We have over 30 speakers. We have dinner activities. And the Gaylord is just a beautiful resort right next to the DIA airport. It's a destination to be seen, and it can be a lot of fun, a great 4 days for everybody to connect.
And again, Dr. Ian Felt, another guy in the first two documentaries, who also did a great job in those. So you can check that out, Feta documentary. Go check out everything Dr. Gerber is doing over at Low Carb Denver. And your site is called, I never know what your site is called, Jeff. Give it again.
So denversdietdoctor.com.
denversdietdoctor.com. Hang on, I want to say goodbye to you off the air. Folks, if you like what's going on here, you know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, please go to VinnieTortorich.com, click through the banner, puts a little coal on the fire, gets my train down the track. I'm able to keep the show free for well over 10 years, 11 years. Wow. Who would have thought? We also have the super fan page at VinnieTortorich.com and the PDF. That PDF has helped people around the world. So go check it out at VinnieTortorich.com. It's the best $10 you will ever spend. Think about what you spend at Starbucks. This is less than 1 day at Starbucks. Go get that PDF. On behalf of Dr. Jeffry Gerber, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living and do it with enthusiasm.